Good morning, everybody. Gonna get started. How's everybody this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are? Feel free to jump in on the comments, ask questions, and let's get started. We're going to dive in today to HubSpot's, I think, a very powerful feature that's not as well known as it should be. The features I'm talking about are calculations and roll-up properties. And it works, and it's pretty much across all hubs in HubSpot. And so these calculation fields can save you time, automate processes, also save you a lot of export into Excel in order to do certain kind of formulas, and we'll get into them. Both types can really allow you to automate. The roll-up is a little bit simpler. Calculated fields or calculated properties can be a little bit more advanced. We'll talk about them. And my goal is to show you some examples to give you some ideas of how this could work for you in both cases or a combination of them together. And so just to give you kind of a breakdown before I jump in and show you calculation properties, allow you to set up equation based on other properties within the same object. And they can perform various calculations like mathematical operations or formulas. Those of you who are comfortable in Excel or Google Sheets will find this very familiar. You can add if, then logic and things like that. So that's really cool. And we'll get into an example of that in a minute. A few ideas of what you could do with those types of things is, calculating between two dates and then doing something with that. Or creating custom scores, whether it be lead scores or deal scores, based on multiple criteria. You don't have to rely on the regular scoring criteria. You can create your own, and I'll maybe think that's an example I will show. Or forecasting deal revenue based on additional elements, not just the usual percentage times, percentage of that this will close times the amount of money that it was put into the deal. You can add additional parameters. I think you're getting the idea. When we talk about roll-up properties, what roll-up is, like I said, it's a little bit simpler. It is very defined, and we'll see that in a minute, but that allows us to calculate things like minimum, maximum, or it counts or sums or averages something connected to the property or to the object that you're working on. So if you're in a contact, you can use it to count how many tickets are open for that contact. For example, if you're in a company, or you can ask it to calculate, to roll up how many deals based on a number of deals, the amount, like from a sum. So it could be a numeric, and you can formulate it as a currency or just a regular number. And there's a few other options that you have there. And so those are kind of a few examples that you could use it for. So without further ado, let's jump in and look at a few examples of this. And if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to just throw it in to the Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer it. Okay, let's jump into share here. Okay, so when we go into HubSpot and we want to start before I get started, there's going to be at the end of this, those of you stay to the end, I'm going to show a new type of calculated property that leverages AI. It's something that was just released a few days ago. It's in beta, but I think it's really, really worth adding to today's webinar, even though it wasn't in the agenda that was advertised. I think it's well worth waiting to look at that, because it has some really interesting benefits, and I will share with that at the end of today's webinar. So when we go into HubSpot and we want to create a property, okay, hold on. Sorry about that. I'll turn off my phone. And we go into the settings, and we jump down into properties, and we create a property. And as you can see here on the top left, you'll have two things that we really need to fill in, and that's the details and the field type. We'll start with the details. We'll give it a name. Let's call this one, I'll let's start with a count active tickets. Okay, so we'll call this test active tickets for the, okay, we'll do it on a contact. Could do it at a company level or a contact level. You can decide. Let's just do it. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of this example. We'll use it, and we can then use the group feature. If you're starting to create a lot of properties, it's really good to create different groups that you want to put them in, and then it keeps things a little bit more organized. Then we decide on what kind of field type we're talking about. The two types that we're going to be talking about today are roll up and calculation field. We'll start with the roll up. And once we've decided the roll up, like I said, roll up is fairly simple. There's not a lot of places to go wrong. You don't have to type out any complicated formulas. You just need to decide what is it that you're trying to do out of these options, of these 5 options. Are we counting something, minimum, maximum, sum, average? In this case, let's say we're counting. And what is the format you want? Regular format number, a currency, percentage, or duration if you're doing a date, something with dates. And then what is the associated record that we're rolling up? And in this case, that would be a that would be the support or the service that we're talking about. Okay, once we do that, we can search, okay, what is it we're, sorry, not the ticket, apologize, the ticket object that we're trying to roll up. And we want to, what is it we're going to do? All associated labels. We want to choose what associated record property are we counting. And so we can just pick out the user ID, and we can create a condition that we only want to find. We can do all, or we can have a condition where we say where a certain status is reached, like the ticket status is, I don't know, open, closed, whatever it might be. So we can really get granular in these ideas. Just to kind of give other ideas of things you could do, like I mentioned before. If we're in a company, it could count the amount of contacts, it could count anything like that, or we can go, like if we're in the company, we can decide that we're, instead of tickets, we're going to go to deals. Let's just say we were to build this for the example that I mentioned before. In this case, we want to take currency. We want to figure out the amount. Okay. And in this case, we're going to roll up, not count. We're going to sum all of the deals and how much they roll up. And we only want maybe the closed one. So we'll pick stage, deal stage, and then use only closed one deals. So you can get an idea of how to set up. It's fairly straightforward, simple. This is the easier of the 2 options. Let's so that's, and I'm going to go into contacts and show how this could potentially, how this would look at that level. So let's talk a little bit about calculation fields. Okay, so just going to scroll down here and get to the example I wanted to show you guys. Okay, so the next example that I wanted to show you, in that I'm going to jump over to this one, is I want to create a way of measuring or scoring certain companies. As I'm doing ABM, I want to score companies based on the size of the company, let's say the employee count, and I also want to look at I want to prioritize, let's say, companies or leads that are in the US. And I want to use another measure, which is, let's say, the score that HubSpot's AI is bringing. So what am I talking about here? Let's look at this specifically. So if I take any potential lead that has arrived, as you can see here, these are leads that have just arrived. Some of these might be some of you. We can jump into any one of them, and we can see that HubSpot is giving a likelihood to close. Don't have to go into how they do that calculation right now. It's not the purpose of today's, but there's a likelihood to close. We could say that that's an important number, but it disconnects from many other features or many other aspects of this particular lead. For example, their role, where they are, if they're, from an ICP perspective. But like I said, let's keep it simple for today. I want to do a few things. First, I want to see what the company size is of this particular. So I'm going to create a lead, a property that rolls up the amount of people that work at that company that this person is part of. And so as you can see here, I created a test company size and I used the roll up feature to sum and format that. Okay. And then, as you can see, that test company size gets pulled up. In this case, this is someone who works at HubSpot. There's 10,000 people working at that company. There's a 1.69, whatever that number represents, that I'm using as a calculation, and I multiply the two numbers if this company is based in a certain location, and I'm going to show you how we did that. Okay, so I'm going to jump in the same way I would create a property as I did before. I go to the settings, I create a new property. Okay, I write a property level. I'm doing this at the contact type. Okay, this time, what I'm decided I selected that the field type will be calculation. Okay, that right away requires me to create a custom equation. And this is where we get into those Excel formulas that I was talking about. And then we decide how we want to format the number. In this case, we wanted a format number because we want a score. And what you're seeing happening here is, and you can use the insert functions, and it basically can help you create all kinds of functions that you want to make. And we can show that in a minute. Okay, if you look at this formula, it basically says if the IP country is United States, similar to you would do it in anything in Excel, then take the company size that I pulled, that's also a roll up, multiply it by the likelihood to close. If not, return 0, and that's very simple scoring. Obviously, we could get a lot more granular. Another example that I've talked about in other webinars is, and we get a lot from customers, is how this is a great way to help calculate commissions. We can create here a lot of if statements. You think about if you have, if the deal size is of a certain size, they get a certain amount of commission. And as that number changes, let's say above 10,000, it's 10%, above 20,000, it's 15%, and above 50,000, it's 20%. And then you can do all kinds of very deep calculations right here inside of HubSpot, so that you do not need to export everything on a monthly basis, do an Excel, and then off you go. Any questions yet? Let's see here. Okay. Very good. Okay. So I just want to show this one more time before I sign off from this, how it's done from start to finish, so that because I did show it kind of like the baking show where it's all ready. So if we go back to back to the home page, we go to settings, okay, and we scroll down to properties. It's just reminding everybody how we did this. We create a property. In this case, let's just say we're doing a test commission. Okay, we're going to do it on the deal. Okay, this time we're going to use a field type of calculation. Okay, in this case, we're going to use, a number. The number we want is currency. And now we're going to create a if statement. Let's just say if it's up to $10,000, there's no commission. If there's up over $10,000, it's 10%. So again, we could use the function here and just use if. Of course, there's tons of other that you can think about. It gives you the the basic format, and now we can start typing in what we want. In this case, we want the amount. Okay. By the way, if you start typing, it'll help you by finding what you're looking for. Is more than 10,000. Okay, then we go to the next argument. Okay, then we return amount times 1. Otherwise, it's 0. Okay. What's great about this is now we can test the formula, right? We decide if the amount is 5,000, it should come back as 0, and it does. And if we go to 25,000, we test the formula, and oh wow, genius, it works. I think that gives you the basic idea. And if you want to use this now, it's just you have your way to use it, and it really can cut down on the amount of times you need to use Excel, like I said already 3 times. Okay, great. This leaves us time for one more thing. It's not a webinar if we haven't said the word AI at least 5 times. So let's jump into what I was talking about. So I think this is one of the coolest things that I saw that came out of the recent announcements that HubSpot made a couple of weeks ago. And this is a kind of a calculated field, what they're calling smart properties. And it's currently available only for the company object. I'm hoping, I don't know, but I'm hoping that they will move it across all the objects. And I believe it's a type of a game changer. So what is it? Let's jump in. So if we go to companies, okay, and we want to create a new field. The way I like to use it, I just go into the company page, I hit add a column, create new property. For right now, this is only working for these 3 types. Single, I'm going to use it for number, and I'm going to call it, so let me explain to you what it's about. Okay, enough of the intrigue. Basically, I can write a prompt to ask AI to return information from the web for this company. Let's talk about 2 examples. Let's talk about the about summary. Okay, and then we can use a multi-line text. Okay, and we can create a smart prompt which says, I don't know, summarize the company about page, or what does this company do? What are the products? I mean, you could be a little bit more, and then maybe take Penguin Books. We have that in here. I don't know if let's see if that does it. Let's just scroll down and grab a couple of companies. There's nothing interesting here. Let's say Radcom. Okay, and so right now this is just kind of testing your prompt out. So you can obviously return it. Obviously, it didn't like my prompt, or it couldn't find it what I was looking for. But in Radcom, it was able to do it. So you can see that this is very powerful because this obviously works at scale. Another idea that I was thinking about, if you're a company, maybe you're a security company, that the amount of offices that a company has is important for some reason. Maybe you sell by office. So we can use this same thing as before. This time, instead of returning a text, we want to return a number. Then we go in here and we say, how many office locations does the company have? And you can go in here. Let's just use HubSpot. That looks good. I wonder how many they have. 3 HubSpots here. Well, hopefully one of them. Okay, it's not the right one. Talk about not clean data. And then technically this should work. Let's try Checkpoint. I know that they're in here as well. And voila, we created, okay, HubSpot has 15 offices, and let's say we decide that's now we can use this as something uh, to use in our automations, and checkpoint has 53. So this seems to be working. Now we can go ahead and save it, and off we go. We have a new, let's say we call it number of offices test, and we save it and create the property, and voila, we have a whole new thing. It'll start working. Obviously, it takes time for it to populate all of this, but I hope that this is something interesting. If you are interested in this, turn on the beta, go to product updates in your HubSpot portal. I, in general, always recommend just turning on all the betas that come out, unless there's some reason you don't want to. But this is definitely one that's worth it. And off you go. You can go and create the kicker, the gotcha. Is you need to buy into Breeze, and then you can create one depending on which package you buy. They'll let you use a certain amount of fields. Like I said, it's in beta. I feel like they'll open this up further as we go along, so it's worth testing and getting used to it. That's it for today, folks. And next time we're going to, I don't think we're going to wait a whole month because there's just a lot of product updates that came out of the spring update that this particular beta feature came out. But we're going to talk about the main updates that'll affect and make your job better. Our goal is to help you become rock stars. Keep in touch. Sign up for the next one. It should be in 2 to 3 weeks. We'll be sending out emails. Over and out.